Have you ever realized that you know the exact microsecond Jim Halpert is going to stare at the camera? Or that you have consumed the Harry Potter series for the 17th time? Picture this. You sit down exhausted. You scroll past thousands of shiny new blockbusters. You waste 20 agonizing minutes paralyzed by choice, only to do the exact same thing you always do. You press play on Season 1, Episode 1 of a sitcom from a decade ago. Why? In a world exploding with fresh, thrilling stories, why does your brain aggressively reject the unknown? Why do you crave a narrative where you already know every single punchline and every heartbreak instead of exploring something new? People might call you lazy. They might joke that you are hopelessly stuck in the past, but they are completely wrong. Hidden beneath this obsessive need to rewatch those old familiar scenes, you are not just killing time. Your brain is executing a desperate, highly advanced psychological survival strategy. Right now, your mind is playing a silent, invisible game of four-dimensional chess just to keep you intact. We live in a culture obsessed with the new. Every single week, there is a trending series or a viral movie that you absolutely must watch just to stay relevant in casual conversations. When you decline, society is quick to judge. People often label this habit of rewatching as a form of closed-mindedness. They assume you have lost your curiosity, or worse, that you are just mentally lazy, unable to process anything outside of your comfort zone. But let us flip that assumption completely upside down. In the 1960s, a brilliant psychologist named Robert Zajonc proved a fascinating concept called the mere exposure effect. Zajonc discovered a profound, almost beautiful quirk in human psychology. The simple act of being repeatedly exposed to something makes us like it more. Familiarity does not breed contempt, and it certainly does not breed boredom. Familiarity creates a sanctuary. Think about it. You do not necessarily love that old sitcom because the writing is an objective cinematic masterpiece. You love it because you have spent so much time with it that your brain has completely lowered its defensive walls. When you watch a new show, your psychological guard is up. You are analyzing, judging, and bracing for emotional impact. But with your familiar shows, all that cognitive armor drops. You are no longer on high alert. You are finally, truly safe. Let us look at a relatable example. We will call him Lamb. Lamb is a project manager, and his waking hours are a relentless series of putting out fires. Every single day is filled with high-stakes decisions, unexpected crises, and the exhausting burden of managing other people. When he finally gets home, his mental battery is completely drained. He sits on his couch and the streaming algorithm excitedly presents him with a dazzling array of brand new, critically acclaimed thrillers. It begs him to explore. But Lamb just stares at the screen, takes a deep breath, and quietly clicks on an episode of Friends that he has already seen a dozen times. Why does he do this? Lamb is activating what we can call cognitive cruise control. This reveals a fascinating paradox about human nature. We tell ourselves that we love thrilling, unpredictable narratives. But after spending all day navigating the chaos of real life, our brains are desperately starving for predictability. Watching a brand new show requires actual cognitive labor. You have to play detective. You have to memorize new faces, decipher complex plot twists, and brace yourself for sudden emotional betrayals. But when Lamb watches his comfort show, he does not have to do any of that heavy lifting. His mind is finally on an open highway, cruising at a safe, steady speed without ever needing to touch the steering wheel. But there is a second, much deeper layer to this habit. We can call it the evolving viewer. Think about this. The movie itself never changes. The script is identical. The scenes are permanently locked in time. But you, the viewer, are constantly changing. When Lamb watched The Lion King as a carefree 10-year-old boy, he saw himself entirely in Simba. He understood the urge to run away from problems and just ignore the world. But when Lamb watches that exact same movie today, at 30 years old, the experience completely transforms. He finds himself tearing up in the first act. Suddenly, he deeply understands the crushing weight of Mufasa's legacy and the silent, heavy burden of adult responsibility. The movie has not altered a single frame, yet it acts as a profound psychological lens, measuring exactly how much he has grown and suffered. And then, there is the third and most emotional layer of all, the social time capsule. At a certain point, our favorite old movies and television shows stop being just entertainment. They transform into living memories. When Lamb presses play, he is not merely watching characters in a fictional coffee shop. Unconsciously, he is traveling back in time. He is returning to a younger, perhaps more innocent version of himself. He is reconnecting with the exact feeling of the messy college dorm room where he first discovered the show. Or perhaps, in the quiet glow of his living room, he is simply sharing the sofa with the memory of an old friend who used to sit right beside him and laugh at the exact same jokes. Let us strip away the emotion for a moment and look at the sheer biology of your brain. Every single day, you are forced to make thousands of choices: what to eat for breakfast, how to reply to a passive-aggressive email, how to navigate a difficult conversation at work. By the time evening arrives, your prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making center of your brain, is fundamentally depleted. Psychologists call this condition decision fatigue. Starting a brand new television series is not just entertainment. To your exhausted brain, it is a gamble. It is yet another high-stakes choice. What if the plot is terrible? What if you invest 10 hours into a story only for the finale to ruin the entire experience? Your tired mind looks at that risk and says, absolutely not. Returning to a familiar show is the ultimate strategy for biological energy optimization. It is a calculated move that offers 0% risk while guaranteeing maximum psychological comfort. But it goes even deeper than biology. It is about emotional survival. Dr. Pamela Rutledge and researcher Crystal Russell have extensively studied this phenomenon. They view rewatching not as a passive, mindless habit, but as an active and highly effective form of emotional regulation. Think of your favorite movie as a psychological weighted blanket. The modern world is chaotic, unpredictable, and often entirely out of your control. But inside the borders of that screen, you possess absolute power. You know exactly when the hero will triumph. You know the precise moment the background music will swell. And crucially, you know exactly when the tragic scene is coming. This allows you to experience what psychologists call safe sadness. It provides you with a perfectly controlled environment to cry, to release all your pent-up tension, and to gently heal, knowing with absolute certainty that everything will be okay before the credits roll. However, we must be careful not to romanticize this entirely. There is a fine line between seeking comfort and seeking escape. Self-soothing is a deeply necessary human behavior. But we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. When does this psychological safety net become toxic? The danger arises when your comfort show stops being a temporary sanctuary and transforms into a permanent bunker. It happens when you begin using those familiar fictional worlds to completely sever your ties with reality. If you find yourself retreating into the exact same episodes to avoid the messy work of building actual, real-life relationships, a vital shift has occurred. If you are using that screen to numb the pain of unhealed psychological wounds, you are no longer regulating your emotions. You are actively suppressing them. When the television becomes a brick wall between you and the real world, this brilliant defense mechanism suddenly backfires, keeping you safely but painfully trapped exactly where you are. Ultimately, returning to your favorite stories does not make you weak. Your comfort show is not a fragile crutch for someone who is terrified of the real world. It is simply a quiet, steadfast companion. We exist in a society that demands constant forward motion. We navigate a daily life that is unpredictable, deeply exhausting, and sometimes profoundly cruel. In the midst of all that overwhelming noise, revisiting the characters you know by heart is not a sign of surrender. It is an anchor. It is a deeply personal way to gently hold on to your core identity when everything else around you feels completely uncertain. When you press play on that familiar episode, you are not failing to grow. You are doing something incredibly vital for your own psychological well-being. You are actively, deliberately choosing peace. So I have a question for you. What is your psychological weighted blanket? Which show or movie do you instinctively return to when the world gets a little too loud? I would genuinely love to read your stories, so please let me know in the comments below. If this exploration resonated with you today, please subscribe and consider joining as a channel member to help support more deep dives just like this one. And if you are someone who often finds comfort in your own company, you should definitely watch my video on the psychology of people who like to be alone. You can click on it right now on your screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you there.